Nau mai, haere mai ki Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. The big call, Jack Morgan's clear out of Tizano. Two very distinct sides to this. Reading online, one is red and one is gold. We'll break it down, law by law. And there are 5 segments of the law connected to a ruck. In fact, 25, plus a rule on being a Hollywood. So we can objectively figure out if the Aussies were hard done by. It has also shown the different elements of being a pundit in the modern game, contrasting old school views and more nuanced modern ones. But let's face it, the Wallabies were letting that game slip before the decision. So what changed that game for real? We'll also look into the movers and shakers in July's tests from a country and player perspective, and also have a quick look at the NPC. We have another Rugby Ready giveaway for a month of free training with All Blacks guru Dr. Nick Gill's training team. We also have heaps of your emails and comments, as well as all the in-depth analysis you've come to expect from James Parsons and Bryn Hall, and the passion is flowing deep. The midnight WhatsApps were going. You know, watching that Lions game, goodness me, as a Kiwi, I felt that. Do you feel that, Brenna?
I actually felt sad.
Yeah.
I was actually just watching it with my parents, and I actually stood up and just had to be able to have a minute to myself, because I just felt for the Australians. And should we just get straight into it? Get straight into it.
Let's go.
Okay, there's two ways that I do look at it, Ross.
Yep.
And I look at it from the technical point, with what we've probably talked about the last 6 years of this podcast, around anything above the shoulder, neck, head, doesn't matter kind of where it is, the front or the back, it's been deemed a penalty. And at worst, and from probably 3 to 4 years ago, a red card, probably down to a yellow card, and at worst, a penalty. So the technical side of me, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, obviously there's the Hollywood based in and around that, but when I saw that, I was like, that's a penalty with what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years. But then the rugby side of me, and they've got a person that's played a lot, probably haven't had a lot of rucks, Jip's probably had a lot more than me, but watching that and seeing like Jack Morgan in and around, firstly, losing the race, because the interpretation of what was said from the ref was that they were both coming at the same time, which you can see in hindsight now, they're probably 48 hours post-test match, would probably say that description was quite wrong, because Tizano is on that ball quick, and even though it's probably half a second behind, Morgan then comes in. So the interpretation of what that is said from the referee, I think, is wrong. And then from that, I think the way that Jack Morgan has actually tried to clean out, I think he's done enough in terms of being able to use his arms and emotion like that and not flying in like that. And you just look at how low Tizano is, it's very, very hard for him to be able to try and get underneath that without hitting his head. So the rugby side of me, I think it was the right call if I look at it for myself. But at the same time, the technical side of what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years, it's a penalty at worst. So you see Morgan Turanui and probably his voicing of opinion, very one-eyed in what way, but he is right. Like, I think the way that it has been officiated in the last 4 or 5 years, at worst, that is a penalty.
Say take the shoulder wherever it hits, even if he hits mid-back, he still loses his legs. So if you use Daniel Leonard-Brown, this is the only example I can think when I was looking at it, was his yellow card in off-field review against the Blues when they were down to 13 and they beat the Blues down in Dunedin. And he got 3 weeks, and it was all from losing his feet, and the impact was down. When I look at that and I look at Morgan, I don't think he was ever in control of his body weight. He saw Tizano, got into that position. Everyone knows Tizano, once he's in that position, he's immovable. Was he aiming for the neck? No, I don't think he was, but it still went in that area. And from what we've seen, especially at World Rugby, because there's been discussions about 20-minute red cards, and there must be a sanction, we've got to protect, and then you sort of see that everyone, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, they've been big against the 20-minute red card, massive. And now it's like, if this is rugby, rugby's gone. It's like, well, hold on a minute. I can't keep up with what's happening, and we can't just use an isolated incident to suit our argument. I'm surprised that people haven't come out and gone, yeah, it's been missed. It's just a penalty to me. Every day, all day, every day, it's a penalty.
But this is the brass tacks of it, right? Like, when you look at rugby, and it doesn't matter which side you're on. If you're on the red side, you're saying, okay, this can be gotten away with because of the reasons you're talking about. You know, there's mitigating factors and there are all these things going on. That is a legitimate opinion because rugby has allowed it to be a legitimate opinion. If you go on the other side, the Wallabies have gone and received a bad call because the law says, actually, that is a bad call. That is a legitimate opinion. Rugby has put itself in a place where both opinions are legitimate, and if the result goes your way, you're going to be on whichever side of the fence best suits your opinion. And that's what we saw with Barton Johnson post-game. We saw with pundits who were just saying, that's not rugby. Warren Gatland, I think, also got on the, well, it's just a rugby incident, but then you look at the rules. So maybe we can break this down. Rule by rule, and let's be the objective people who help you get through.
Good luck with explaining this, Ross. How long do we have?
Start at the basics, the absolute basics. What is a ruck? Because we need to understand what a ruck is in order to decide the rules at a ruck. A ruck is formed when at least one player from each team are in contact, on their feet and over the ball, which is on the ground. Players involved in all stages of the ruck must have their heads and shoulders no lower than their hips. So that is a ruck.
Well,
okay, let's get into the ruck.
Pretty much every breakdown, someone's heads are lower than their hips, heads and shoulders. And that's the position.
Yeah, and it's not adjudicated on.
No.
Because we let it go.
And look, I agree with all that, and I understand you can create arguments both sides throughout the laws. You can do it. I don't care who wins, to be honest, if it's Lions or the Wallabies. What I'm saying is, from every game of rugby I have watched, that is a penalty. Yep. Or are we saying we're only penalising that when someone's injured? So if we go back to the Leonard Brown, I think Funaki, shoulder was injured. Are we reacting to that?
Yeah. Or
are we just going to police it for what it is? And if you lose your feet and you have that downward motion in and around the breakdown, whether it's a ruck or formed or not, you're not in control.
Before we finish this Ashley and Martin turning point, I just want to go through a quick checklist of all of the things that they need to look at in this ruck to make this decision, so you understand from start to finish what it needs to look like. Okay, let's start. Rule 15.3. Was Tizano's head below his hips before he was hit by Morgan? Yes or no?
Yes. But if that's a penalty, every ruck's a penalty.
I would argue that his head was level until he got hit and then he went under. Rule 15.7. Did Morgan attempt to bind upon simultaneous contact with Tizano?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
He did.
Okay. Law 15.12. Did Morgan stay on his feet when entering the ruck?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Okay. 920B. Did Morgan make contact with the opponent above the line of the shoulders?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did Morgan drop his weight into the opponent?
Yes.
Okay. This is the good one. 9.7C. Did Tizano do anything to lead officials to think that an opponent has made it? Yes. So if you go through all of that stuff, you can see that there are that many things that could be adjudicated on, but the majority of them are in Australia's favour. And if you go through it chronologically, I think what you'll see is that the first indiscretion was against, I personally think it was against Morgan. I think Tizano was level until he got hit and then his head went below his shoulder.
Yeah, he sort of ducks, doesn't he?
So I think that the first penalty was when Morgan's knee hit the ground and he was no longer on his feet at the ruck.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
Yep.
And if that is the case, that makes that the penalty, right? Unless there is some act of egregious foul play like hitting the neck. And they're never going to penalise him for a Hollywood.
No, that's definitely a coach thing.
Yeah.
The Hollywood. I think he needs to do a bit of work on it.
Yeah, he's no Brad Pitt.
But on that though, if you actually look at when obviously Harry Wilson scored, that try's been scored and Harry's obviously very emotional that they've just lost the test match. You see the Watergirl, I'm not too sure what it was, come on the field and he's obviously heard it and then he sprinted to then go and ask because like you say, it's not that you're... No, so you are coached that if there is any form of anything above the neck or the head, you've got to go to, probably not to that the theatrics of that, but you do fall back and being able to say that obviously, my head or my jaw or anything like that, to then your captain would go talk to AR or go talk to the ref and say that, hey, go have a look at this because it's hit the neck above the shoulder.
I think the overplaying did not help him.
Yeah. So stay down quietly injured.
Well, not quite, but like...
There's a way to do it.
Not just...
That was an Oscar.
Get stretch it off.
That was an Oscar.
Yeah. Get stretch it off.
You're better off absorbing it and you probably don't want to get stretch it off because his family will be stressed.
For the sake of the Lions,
I just think there's a fine balance between irritating officials by being a Hollywood.
Yeah.
They'll be like, well, you've gone over the top there and maybe it's not as bad as it was. and then actually having some sort of injured impact.
Yeah. But I think we've proven that the penalty could go either way, but in the most occasions, probably should have gone Australia.
From what we've seen the last 5 years, we've seen, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
Because I've even heard conversations like, sorry, it's out of my hands. Once you've come around the head, neck area, this is what it is. So, like, if I was playing, I'd be confused.
Yeah.
If I was a Lions player, I'd be going, no penalty all day. You know, like, I'll be honest about that. Like, you probably are going to look at it differently and go, absolutely not.
Yep.
But to try and take it from a non-emotive point, it's a penalty.
I look 5 years ago, if you asked me 5 years ago, and probably not with how many experiences we've talked about this, a lot of examples that we've had. I'm like, what more can you do? It's probably just not a penalty. It's a rugby incident that happens every time. I don't know how many rucks there are in a game. But now, from how many experiences, how many times we've talked about it, it's popped up into our comment sections, everything. To this day and age, now it's a penalty.
You know what I love about this? Is you can have a big argument, put one finger on a halfback and it's a penalty.
Endangered species.
There you go. There's got to be a loophole somewhere, and it's us halfbacks. If you take away that, it was actually a really good test match. Like 23-5.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of ill discipline in terms of, I guess, the Lions in that first 30 minutes. And the Wallabies were really good in efficiency-wise, scoring points. Tom Wright does a 50-22 and then he scores in that 30th minute to then take it out 23-5. I thought, it's going to be really hard for the Lions to come back here, but I think with this Lions team, they've kind of played really well in spurts, Jip. Like, they haven't played a full good 80-minute game or near close to that. And I guess that's probably the expectation we've had with this group, with how experienced and I guess the depth that they do have. But they found a way. They scored 4 tries after that 30 minutes. And then obviously Keenan has a big part of that. And I guess in and around that, the defence, I guess, of the Wallabies, Jip, probably lost in the game, I guess, for the last 2 tries especially.
Yeah, and also just not tightening the ship a little bit when they got ahead. You know, like, obviously there was a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to get that lead, but I think in terms of the 2 different psyches, they needed to make the most of that. They needed to get to the break not conceding those points. And Tom Curry gets back and makes a tackle. They made another launch down the field. The Wallabies makes a tackle on Suaalii, and the momentum shift from that minute. And that's where I think at the end of the series, just being on 24/7 is going to be the difference. And I think the Lions have shown that with their quick throw-ins or quick taps, or just when you think you're going to switch off, they're on. And their defence, like, they tackled at... the Lions tackled at 82%, which is quite low, but it was their scramble and their desperation. They didn't have a good night. I think we all know that they didn't have a good night due to the way the Wallabies played. But actually, when it counted, I think in their psyche, they just thought they were never going to lose that test. And that's what it just looked like, a methodical march down the field each time, and it was just too easy to get those points back. After the Wallabies had such a great start, I just don't think they made the Lions suffer in pain long enough to dent that doubt that they were ever going to lose that test. And once they went into that break, and they got to the 17 points, you just felt Wallabies almost needed to score a try in the start of the second half, not the 3 points. And I really liked how early in the game Wilson went to the corner. I was almost begging him. I know it sounds silly because scoreboard pressure, take the 3. They only lost by 3. But I just felt like, man, if he had gone to the corner again then, come away with 5 or 7, it's just dents that belief, I suppose, that the Lions have that they should never lose to this Wallabies side. And maybe that excitement and disbelief of the Wallabies themselves of showing what they're capable of with, strong direct carries, quick ruck ball, and then creating time and space for Suaalii. He gets one opportunity, and I hate to harp on about this, but the guy needs time and space. Centre is not his space. He finally got it, and look what he does. Sets up a try with ease. Get him on the wing.
And I think also as well, we talk around, Jip just touched on the gain line and obviously the percentage of being able to play with the lightning quick ball. Look, I think Will Skelton and Rob Valentini, I don't know if they were injured or not, Ross, but for the fact that they went off, I thought it was a big dent in terms of, I guess, what they started in that first half. Like, look at some of the stats here. Like, they both had 9 carries. Will Skelton was 67% over the gain line and 86% lightning quick ball. And then Rob Valentini, same amount of carries, 78% over the gain line and 88% lightning quick ball. And those kind of stats there, I think, especially in that first 30 minutes where they scored the majority of their points, they were just being able to get over the advantage line, being able to get that quick ball for the likes of Suoliti and being able to, I guess, pose different questions against this British and Irish Lions team. And I felt when they went off, and that's no disrespect to the guys that came on, Lange Gleeson came on earlier, their 6-2 split, Bell came on, but it just felt like it was a lot harder in terms of that breakdown area and being able to get that good go forward ball. It just looked really hard. Every carry was just a half a metre. They're going back. They were going probably like increments of 1 metre, 1 metre, 1 metre, 1 metre. Whereas when you had Skelton and Valentini on, it gave the likes of Harry Wilson and even the hooker as well. Poriki, sorry, to get over the advantage line. So yeah, I'm not too sure what their fitness was, but they lost a little bit of a punch with them going off.
You always know Will Skelton's not going 80, but I think they were the difference. They were where the points came from. And I know, like Wright, Suoliti, they were outstanding, but those two, in terms of, I think more importantly, like their individual stats, I think every time we look at Rob Valentini and Will Skelton, we know they're going to win a collision. You know they're going to get lightning quick ball off the back of their carries, but man, their clean out work. The Aussies had 58% lightning quick ball across the board, and a lot of it came. You watch Skelton, man, like he changes pace. I would not want to be anywhere near over the ball when the big fella, you know, like, and he's steamrolled me before previously when he played for the Waratahs, so I know what it's like. But his change of pace and the venom in his clean out, and then he'll hold someone in, he'll grab this person here, creates a little bit of niggle. You know, even that shot, or people may call it a cheap shot, but on Furlong, the ball was still live, you know, and he put a shoulder straight through his rib cage, you know, like that sort of edge just changes, and then you saw that speed of ball, and then when the Wallabies can play on top. So the question I ask out the back of this test is how important is their availability to, one, the trip to South Africa. I know we're jumping ahead, but two, getting the Bledisloe Cup back. It is like they were the difference.
But you need that for 80 minutes. And if those guys aren't 80-minute players, you're going to need somebody else, or do you switch it up and have them come on after 30 minutes and play the last 50? Or, you know, how do you make it so that works?
I think Valentini can go 80 when he, you know, like once he gets some more minutes at international level. Skelton can probably go longer than 47. If you could get him to 60, there's enough there to sort of bring on a Tizano and co to have a bit of edge.
Right, so the July series is over. I suppose there is one more test match, but, you know, the series is over. So let's have a look back at all of the games through this series and the players who played, whether you're South African, Argentinian, New Zealand, Australian, Alliance player, whatever it might be, and have a look back at what was impressive, what needed work, and who really, really stood up. So let's start there. Jipper, which 5 players across all the tests stood out to you and why?
Surprise, surprise, I've gone off script. Haven't really been able to get 5.
Okay.
But I think my first one, from a personal point of view, is the Roygaard Barrett Jordan combination in terms of that game drivers, and the way the three of them performed together was, you know, extremely exciting from an All Blacks point of view. So I think those three are definitely, off the back of July, you know, it gives you a lot of confidence going into the rest of the year that they've probably solidified their spots. I think the Lions, like I think Byrne and Curry have been massive. Like when they've needed a big tackle or a desperate tackle or a big carry or a game-changing try, 9 times out of 10, it's been the men in 6 or 7. So I think they're definitely in my top 5. If I was having to whittle it down, I'd probably go Byrne, just for his metrics have been through the roof compared to anyone else in the Lions. And if I was to decide between Roygaard, Barrett and Jordan, you'd probably go Jordan. He's sort of set it alight. Gilliard, I think Gilliard, is that how he decided? Guillard, the number 8 from the French. I loved everything about him in Tests 1 and 3, and as I said, I think he's a big reason why they didn't have that dominance in the second test. And then Van der Merwe. He is a little surprise package on the wing for South Africa, and I know he's probably not going to steal the spot of the current, I suppose, frontline wingers for South Africa, but man, they've got some depth in that position, and probably Williams is another one that you could sort of bring in, the halfback. But I think in terms of what impressed me off the back, I think his game was, honestly, I thought it was Colby for most of the game until he scored that try, and it didn't come up with, that's how strong his game was.
Very similar. Like, I suppose that's one of the great things, the way that they work within the system. They've got players who are elite at working similar ways to each other, really.
Yeah. Well, it's a carbon copy of what they've kind of got with Colby and Arnza. Sorry, we should know that. But so that very, very similar skill set in terms of what they've got with that winger there with Van der Merwe. But for me, I've gone pretty similar to Jip. I think the only person that he missed out with for me was that with Holland. I think he's definitely one guy that we touched on him in the last 3 Test matches. 80 minutes. Being able to have 3 Test matches, be able to do that as a debutant. Very impressive. The metrics that we touched on in his last Test matches, and more so just his whole Test matches, has been world class. For the Lions, I've gone Jamison Gibson Park. I think even on the weekend as well, there were 2 instances where I think he was massive in terms of changing the Test matches, and I guess with where his game is at the moment, not only his decision making, but his game management and understanding in Test match footy what's required. I think he's probably the best in the world, along with Dupont around that. So I've been really impressed with how he's played. I think Sheehan as well. I think Malcolm Marx is a big part of this podcast, and we talk about him a lot. But I think he'd be very close and arguably been one of the best hookers in the world with his skill set, not only just set piece wise and his fundamentals, his core roles, but the way that he can carry the ball as well. He's definitely one guy. He can do it all. So I don't know if he can kick 50-20. I haven't seen him do a 50-22 yet. Probably haven't watched a lot of time. But but I think that was big for the Lions. And then I think for the South Africans, Van der Merwe was very good for him. And I think Vandenberg as well, the halfback. I think with, you look at Faf de Klerk not being involved in this next part of the Australian series, you have to think that he's a new guy that's coming off. Grant Williams, you've touched on, had a very good series the last 2 games. And I think for France, lastly, I'm getting all the halfbacks in here, Ross, I thought Lagarek as well.
Yeah.
I thought he was very good for that 3 Test match series against the All Blacks. So, those would kind of be my 5 players, or 6 or 7 that I've just explained, that were good during this June series.
Yeah, so you touched on Holland. Anybody else who was young who you were like...
Well, I think we're going to go to you straight away, because we're both
I hope to see him this weekend.
Very similar.
Yeah. You'd hope to see him. He gets a crack, doesn't he?
You'd think so.
I have been proven wrong, though. The loose forward trio has been pretty strong for the Lions. But I would love to see him get a crack against Wallabies. I just think, I don't know, you talk about fan engagement when he's in and around the ball, even after he's done something, the way he reacts, he's all smiles, all energy, and it's hard to not get behind him.
He's a bit of a like or hate him kind of guy if you're the opposition.
Yeah, well, I'm starting, obviously I haven't seen a hell of a lot of him in the England Premiership, but I am starting to hear that there is... he doesn't mind getting under the skin. He doesn't mind celebrating something about his ice-cold veins and stuff. I'm not so big into that, but from what I've seen as a player, he is definitely... He gets your attention, like him or hate him, he's going to get your attention, which is probably a strong thing. I also think not only on Holland, I think Karefi was massive. I think getting thrown in late, he was huge. And I think Ollie Norris, I think his transition, sometimes some players, especially in the type 5, they look like they fit Test match level footy, and he certainly did. Like, he made great impact off the bench, physically, scrummaging wise. We know the French, doesn't matter how many players they have across the top 14, the scrum is a big part of their pride or their DNA as a type 5. So it wasn't an easy assignment, and I think he made every post to win it.
Yeah, and I also think for the Australians, Max Jorgensen, he's been awesome in terms of, you sometimes forget that he's like only 20 years of age, and I think he was put into the environment pretty quickly, and unfortunately a few injuries when he first got selected, wasn't able to get on the field. But look, I love everything about him in terms of his work rate off the ball. He loves chasing kicks. He's very good in terms of, I think, just his attack and his speed, and he's got courage as well. He's got a lot of courage in a lot of areas of the game, whether it's on the attacking side of the ball or defensively as well. So he's probably one guy that I think has been given an opportunity and has played very, very well in the Test matches.
And I'm going to steal a terminology from Leo McDonald, but he always said, in a chase line or on a hard ball get, where's your competitive edge? Who's going to win that competitive edge? And that's what Jorgensen has. If there's a 50-50, 9 times out of 10, he normally dives on it, or he'll rip it out of your hands in the air, or if it's a chase to force you or corral you into a corner defensively, he'll be the one that makes that big effort. There's been big tickets on him, like both league and rugby wanted him. He chose rugby, and I think, they're building a phenomenal little back three. Potter's pace, you've seen what he could do for the Force. They're building a little, I suppose, treasure chest of X factor that's only going to grow and develop, and Jorgensen will be a big part of that.
Okay, what about the wider game? What's excited you about the wider game, Jipper, from what you've seen through July? Not necessarily a player, but maybe the way things are played.
I think probably the initiative to keep the game going. The Lions are probably the biggest example because it's not what we used to, but I think across all of July, it has been a mindset of trickery, trying to get that one up, staying on 24/7 with the quick throw-ins, the line-out innovation of the All Blacks. So all that sort of manipulation in play or manipulation of desperation to be first is what I really enjoyed, and normally the right team that displayed those characteristics won. And I think it's an area that probably South Africa have been dominating in that innovation space for a long time, but you can see across every sort of test match that all nations are starting to catch up and wanting a part of the action. Maybe not catch up because I don't think you'll ever catch up with Russie, but I think that they're trying to put their own I suppose DNA attached to that innovation and that up tempo, keeping the ball in the field of play. And the numbers, a lot of the tests were over 40 minutes ball in play, and I just think it's been a great spectacle across the board.
I think that's the biggest thing that I've loved seeing in the June series, not only from us, because our DNA is to attack and we've wanted to try attack, and we've probably seen that in the first 3 test matches against the French, having an ability to want to attack with ball in hand. Now we've probably touched on in the last couple of weeks the physicality and us being able to get over the advantage line, which in turn has been able to have our backs being able to swing together and being able to score tries off that really good hard work from the forwards, which has been great, I guess, for us as Kiwi fans to see that happening. But then I also look at the Lions and how they've played. We've talked around Finn Russell, their Curry, Byrne, whoever's been on the edge, Pollock, being able to, I guess, attack with ball in hand, being able to do square hands, good ball carries on the edge. And then the South Africans, their brute physicality is still in their DNA and they're able to go to that, but we've talked around their attacking kicking games with Delande, Fussy, Leroux, whoever it may be, to be able to not only just attack with ball in hand, but with those attacking kicks, and they've also got their line speed defence. So I think the game's in a really good spot, because I think, we probably think around 2 years ago, that kicking game was a big part of it to try and build pressure, because the defence pressure was so hard and the physicality at the breakdown on the attacking side of the ball. But it just seems that teams are wanting to play with the ball in hand. You look at the Springboks, the All Blacks, and probably the British and Irish Lions. They've been the good, the beginning of, hopefully, a change in world rugby when it comes to international rugby holding the ball.
I think the officials as well need a lot of credit, because they've allowed the game to keep going, and they've allowed things that maybe potentially would have been brought back for being 2 centimetres off the mark. They've just allowed it to go. And I know we've just spent most of the show talking about one mistake, but I do think it's who would be a referee? It's brutal. But I think in the most part, it's been you haven't heard about a referee decision until this Lions game. It's been about the rugby and how it's been played, which is, I think, a sign that things are in the right space. And I think the game is turning towards maybe there is a little bit of an advantage on attacks now in the way they've manipulated that rush defence and finding ways to work it down. It's just I suppose the first team or the first defence coach to say enough's enough and bring back something that's going to challenge the attacking structures. But there's been a lot of points scored, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Not if you're a defensive coach, but great for a fan.
And how long till the South Africans get here? 41 days, is it, or something like that?
The first game is the first week of September.
Yeah,
so
we've got to be able to concentrate on what's in front of us, but it's just around the corner, which is going to be great.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Got to go to Argentina.
Which is going to be tough, which is a tough place to play. And I think you probably look at the Argentinians, just a bit of consistency would be great for them. Probably not against us, against whether it's not us, but against the South Africans or the Australians. Just a level of consistency, because when you saw that British and Irish Lions game and how they played under limited preparation, they're very, very hard to beat. So I think for the Rugby Championship, if the Wallabies can continue to play like they did on the weekend and finish that off with a third test match with hopefully a win or similar of the way that they played, I think Rugby Championship's in a really good place to be a hell of a series.
Yeah, especially with the fact that you're going back to back against other countries, which makes the next part of it, Jip, the second test is so much more interesting when you've made that little adaptation, you've made your little changes, you've tweaked your team, you've done whatever it might be. To me, that makes the championship so much more interesting than kind of one-off test here, one-off test there, and it's split because of the travel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's so much better, and it's you just pocket it into like little tours in your own head, you know, like and we're focused on RG and we know that they can be a dangerous weapon, but I also like to think that the Wallabies can grow in confidence and really challenge the South Africans over there, because think if it was to be extremely tight coming back this way, with obviously South Africa coming down here and Argentina going to Aussie, it sets up for the engagement. Obviously I say all this because I never have the intent of the All Blacks losing, but any time it's close or there's a potential for an upset, it breathes life into rugby. Rugby, I think is in a really good spot in terms of the viewership numbers and stuff. Like it is starting to fly again, and sometimes we don't control that narrative well in rugby, but I definitely think like everywhere you go and you're walking out amongst the public, and people just want to talk footy, and it hasn't been positively talk footy.
And you hate talking footy.
Oh yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, I was down in Whangamatara on the weekend, and someone suggested we should have he's going on tour to Argentina. He suggested we should have a show over there. I said, you're onto something, but I don't know if the budget goes that deep.
I'm sure we can find a steakhouse to do it.
He was very excited to talk about the steak and red wine. I said, I don't drink red wine, so I can't help you there, but the steak is very good.
It's funny, like, I think I was at the Northcote Tavern yesterday just for dinner, and one of my good mates, Leon, he was just talking today, I think we actually talked around for like 10 minutes of the incident of what we had on the weekend, and this isn't even an All Blacks game. So it's great for the fact that people are actually watching are engaged, and especially with the British and Irish Lions, you're going to be engaged. But yeah, it was great to talk about, I guess, the different opinions and what, your layman's terms that are thinking in terms of what they thought of that decision. So I think rugby's in a really good spot, being able to, having these conversations openly. Yeah,
I had the same thing at a 3-year-old birthday party. It wasn't a 3-year-old, but it's exactly the same. A bit of chocolate cake and a bit of chat about rugby. We're done.
It's not too bad. You get chocolate cake out of there, Ross.
Yeah.
A bit different at the Northcote Tavern.
Yeah, beautifully made too, Lana. Well done. It was a good cake. If you're a Kiwi viewer, you will have noticed the 3 Cadbury try-time tries scored during the series against France. Will Jordan scored the first All Blacks try twice, while Cameron Regard did it in the second test. They made some lucky Kiwis very happy winners, taking a share of $50,000. To get involved during the Rugby Championship, just buy any Cadbury chocolate product, head to cadburytrytime.co.nz, upload your unique till receipt, and you'll get a random All Blacks jersey number. If your number scores the All Blacks' first try in the next game, you'll score a share of $50,000. Your jersey number is only valid for the upcoming game. 1 entry, once a day, per receipt. Get all the details and T's and C's on the website, and heads up, it's only for New Zealand residents 18 and over. Head to cadburytrytime.co.nz and get amongst. Right, lots of questions came through this week, and not all to do with the incident at the Ruck. Some others as well. This one came through from your Pepper via email. I presume that's how I say your name. Reason I write is that watching the box, sometimes I see them flooding the breakdown from the side, at times cleaning people way past the ball to create a 14% slow ball you mentioned Georgia had. Is there no way that the captains see or coaches see this and then whisper to the ref to look out for it? Or am I not too sharp, and the through the gate rule when it comes in the ruck has changed?
I think it's like sort of similar to what you said before, when is it a ruck?
Yeah.
And where the South Africans do it so well is they win races and they flood it to the point that it's like, how can they not be winning it because they've won the collision? Mm-hmm. And I think that's, whenever it comes in rugby, and Brendan and I refer to a lot, is if you're there first, then you can cut that angle. Yeah. Because the ruck's not formed when you're entering. It's when, I suppose, 1 or 2 players follow you in the same direction is where there comes a problem. But the initial hit is, you almost want to take a shortcut to absolutely destroy it, to dominate it.
So one person's on the ground, there might be one person from the opposition. You can come in essentially from the side.
Yeah, because there's that's within reason. Like each ref will deem it different, but you'll test it early. Yeah. You'll test it early. So, like you can, if you're there first, you can clear them out as long as they're within a metre. And it's not like obviously straight from the side, but you've got to be within that metre of entry before the ruck's formed as well.
Right. So what does flooding mean? How many people flood? What is a?
Well, once you win the collision, normally you've got to read it yourself. But if you're the two rock pillars, if we're talking defensively here, if this, because of the slow ball for Georgia, it's the closest near will corral back in and then flood it because you've won the collision. Walk over the ball and then
get it back.
The critical thing is you don't play at the ball because sometimes they can say it's still in the ruck. You've got to walk over it to then, once you've absolutely dismantled them, then you can play it.
But if you're the attacking team, there's no point to flood the ruck because if you've won the collision, chances are the ball's there for the halfback.
And it's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're flooding the ruck, you've lost the contact.
Yeah.
And you're under siege.
Yeah. You just try and brace. Well, ideally, then you bug it then because you've got 3 guys coming. So yeah. So, like for example, like you look at the kicks. So the contestable kicks. If someone gets a really good, someone's up in the air, and then they make their tackle really low and they land on top of them. Ideally, they'll try to then get up. They'll try to pop up and then go square to go through and flood. Then as a person coming from that kick, you're seeing that they've won that collision area. Okay, now I can flood the ruck and be able to get in behind them because they obviously won the collision, they're up, and then you just follow them, and it's 3 people kind of versus 1, and it's hard for the defensive team to come around from that kick to then try and brace, and they've obviously lost the race, and that's the decision to then flood the ruck.
Yeah, and then you click onto attack.
Well, then it's that we've seen it a lot when it comes to even the British Irish Lions. If they get that quick ball, ideally as well, if you see that, it's almost a quick 2-pass to get that ball away from the ruck, and then you get into your kind of counter-attacking guys like your Will Jordans or your Tom Wrights or whoever it may be.
Because the opposition's still backing up.
Well, normally you're panicking on attack because you're under threat, so most people honeypot. And all their eyes are looking in going, have we won that ball? Am I on attack? Am I on defence? So then the space is normally wide.
But that's what you're talking about with Ikitau. He's looking at that honeypot.
Well, that's need a head on a swivel.
Ideally, in that situation with Ikitau, it's just been able to just have a quick look. And at the same time, I'm not too sure if Jorgensen was screaming to him because your winger can help out in that scenario, saying we're down a person here, or like Ikitau, get wide, or like let's speed the set to be able to then make your movements. Because you just look at that move and it was too late. He was looking at the ruck, and by that stage, Keenan had seen it, was on the outside of him, and that's a really, really hard tackle to make, especially under the amount of pressure that they're under.
I've got another question for you around the ruck. This one came from Stephen Booth. After a ruck is formed, why are halfbacks allowed to lift the ball off the ground and put it down again whilst they manage it towards the back of the caterpillar? Surely the first time they lift it off the ground, it should be live, and the opposition players should be able to tackle the halfback. In a similar vein, when a halfback kicks the ball back into a ruck and the team hits a teammate in front, should that not also be offside?
I think that one is. That should be. It is technically offside. But I love the first part of that question because this is a question that I've posed to a few referees in terms of when you're seeing that caterpillar. Because ideally, refs want them to be able to try and move it back as fast as they can to get that caterpillar. But that's correct. Like as soon as that ball is lifted, even if he's lifting it back to get back into that caterpillar to get the kickback, it should be all on. Because it should be, but that's actually not refereed and officiated in a way that a team could do that. Because I've seen a couple of times, even Jamison Gibson Park, a couple of times in these test match series, I've seen him being able to grab the ball up off the ground and then going back. It's very quick, but if you're onto like an Etzebeth, who you probably see is very good in and around saying, is the ball out? I completely agree with that question. It should be out.
And similar to the last question around, are there conversations with refs? Absolutely. Like refs get sent truckloads of clips from both teams. Can you look at this? Can you look at that? So that when you're out on the field, you can go, we sent these clips, it's not adjusting, and we sent you those clips, he's lifting it again, is that out? So you're posing the question because the risk is way too great to just go, I'm right. Because the refs normally, they've got the final say, so you want to be able to ask the question to force them to make it, to say it's out. Because if it's not, and you think, even if you're right, and it's not deemed, like it's a big penalty and it's a big march up the field.
But to that question though, I completely agree. like as soon as that ball's lifted up, technically you should be able to go for it.
Yeah, we know that referee's boss Chris Pollock wants you on board. So when you're finished, are you going to go after the halfbacks if you come on board, mate?
It's actually
is that a little team that you're not allowed to go against?
Well, who knows? I don't know. But I think I actually did pose this question to Polly actually as well.
Yeah.
I think I was in Whangarei and I actually did ask him. So he was actually very similar to what I do. But I just don't think it's officiated because it's such a small part of the game and it's seen as negative, because then it becomes a little bit of a dogfight. But yeah, I agree. It's definitely something that I touched on. I was like, as soon as you lift it up, surely we're good to go. And he's like, yeah, well, technically, yeah, it is. It just depends who's officiating and if the ref does it at that point in time.
That offside line as well, making sure that if you're a defender in that right spot, that you're not kind of...
You just communicate it though. You just communicate it. Like before the game, you see the clips, it's sent out to the ref and they'll say, okay, well, hey, this is where I am. Am I offside? You might get one go at it and he might say, take a step back, and then you ask him again on the run, say, hey, mate, am I actually onside? Can I, or for that example, he's lifting the ball up, can I go next time, or can you have a look at it? And then the ref say, okay, I'll have a look at it, and then you're obviously commentating that on the run. He's done it again, and then you have another chance to be able to go for it. So, like to Jip's point, you've just got to be smart in and around it, because it's a momentum killer.
Right.
It's 50 metres straight away off a penalty because you just kick it straight into touch.
So sometimes those conversations are happening in play as opposed to in a stoppage where you're going and having a conversation with them.
Yeah, like on the run.
Or you're trying to talk to the halfback to let them know you're there, you're watching them. Is that lifted, sir? Is that lifted, sir? So that it may make you hesitate, and then the 5 seconds is up, or there's just constant.
You do it in a way, and you also identify what kind of ref you have as well. Some refs enjoy being able to have a conversation one-on-one. You can pose that question pretty early on and have that dialogue throughout the game. But then there's just some refs that you just don't ask, knowing that's what their personality is like. And that might need to be before the game, saying, hey mate, like look, this is a picture that I've seen. Can you have a look at it? And then you might go and talk to the ARs if you're not getting what you want out of that ref. So then he can then pose that question to that ref and say, hey, this is what they're seeing. So yeah, it just comes back to that kind of understanding of referees, and the good players get a really good gauge around who's reffing them and how they can get get that play with what they need at that time.
If you, a family member or friend, needs to get into rugby shape, we have the giveaway that will supercharge them for this season. Along with All Blacks trainer Dr. Nick Gill's Rugby Ready team, we're trying to get the rugby community, whether you're a player or fan, fit and strong. A huge congratulations to this week's winner of the Rugby Ready giveaway, Rory Cormack. You've scored 4 free weeks of free access to the Perform membership. Rory just finished his season and doesn't get any strength and conditioning support through his club. He believes Rugby Ready would give him the chance to improve his game. Thanks again to everyone who entered. We loved reading your stories. And if you didn't win this time around, don't worry, you're still in the running. So keep those amazing submissions coming in, and it could be your name we announce next week. Want in? It's simple. Just DM Rugby Ready on Instagram with the code ARP and tell them why you'd love to win. Each week, one winner will receive 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership with full access to all of Dr. Nick Gill's pre-season, in-season, off-season and specialty programs to help your game go to the next level. And of course, if you miss out, you can get 75% off memberships through ARP by going to the link and using the QR code below. Right, NPC's underway this week, and you know these two Harbour boys are pretty excited about seeing all of that go down. So huge games on as well, some absolute doozies. We've got a Ramfleet Shield Challenge between Taranaki and Northland. We've got some old rivalries. We've got the Battle of the Bombays going on. Southland versus Otago on Stag Day. Stag Day?
Oh, like last year, Southland won. It was almost like they won the competition. Like they invest a lot in Stag Day. It is
Stag Day?
I think it's just get along and get right in behind your provincial side, and the crowd are right into it. And it's like a battle of the bridge. Like there's no love lost between Otago and Southland, and it was probably the most amazing one last season. So and the fact they got the result and it was a close game. So I'm really looking forward to that one. There's plenty of pride and passion behind that one.
Sounds like Stag Day should be a public holiday. They need to have that on a Friday.
I think it
probably do if they win.
I think there is one. If they win, they'll need it with the way they celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is lots to look at, including, I suppose, the most important thing about the NPC that everyone wants to see is new stars coming through. So you guys have cast your eyes across some of the teams. Chipper, who are you seeing as the youngsters to keep an eye on?
There's some youngsters obviously coming out of that 20s program, but I still think there's some players that are young in their careers and almost feel this season is their season to really stamp their mark as, I suppose, the superstars of NPC. And I think Finn Hurley's one. You talk about Stag Day. He's the sort of player that can take that away from you pretty quickly with his attacking game. We saw his development and growth at Super Rugby level. I'm really excited to see how he looks to dominate NPC and really dominate, I suppose, the highlight reels that we know he's capable of.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think for North Harbour, got to be able to put North Harbour in there, Ross. But I've got Tristram Cook. I think with Cam Christie, another Harbour person who's quite young, is going to be injured, and I think he's actually going to have a big play in terms of what that Harbour season goes. And he's very good. Like, I think Jippers talks around traits. And look, he pretty much is very similar to kind of Brodie Retallick mindset of being able to hook in and being able to clean rucks and being able to do all the dirty work. So he's definitely one guy that I think will be one to watch. Dylan Pledger from Otago. I know they've got some good halfback ranks down in Otago, but I think with his New Zealand 20s program and how he played, he's definitely one that I'm keeping an eye on. Mosesi Basin, who's going to be down at Manawatu, and he's going to have some great, I guess, teachers with TK Howden and Brandon Yosse down there to be able to teach him with that young guy coming through. I think he had an awesome under-20s campaign. And I've gone for a couple of older guys that are coming back, Ross. I think Lester Whainganuku coming back from France, and I guess that Tasman team. How stack's that Tasman team, by the way? They're absolutely, if they don't win it, there's something wrong.
Is anyone looking into the salary cap?
Well, I'd love to see as well when you've got Mitchell Drummond and Finlay Christie being your two halfbacks along with David Harvilli. Anyway, so I've gone off on a rabbit hole. Sorry, Tasman, book on if you're the TAB, go book on them.
Gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly, of course. Yeah. But two old guys I've gone also. Jake Heenan. I don't know, most New Zealand people won't know him, but he was a former New Zealand under-20s player. Played with him for New Zealand under-20s. Went and applied his trade over at Connacht and Bristol Bears with Pat Lambert. He's coming back to play for his last season in Northland, and I guess to be able to see him play, he'll be one for Northlanders to come watch. So, and lastly, Peyton Spencer. I know he's been injured the last year, but I think he's definitely a kid who has a big future, and I'd love to see him stay injury free and for that Auckland team as well.
I'm really interested to see how they use him because Rico Simpson's another one. Obviously in that Auckland setup. If they could create a nice little 10-15 axis, there's some really excitement around both those players, and I think could they actually grab the competition by the scruff of the neck and make a charge like that? Auckland squad's extremely strong up front, and if they can provide the ball for those two men, I think they're exciting. I'm also with you with Tasman. I think Fletcher Anderson, he played fantastic at number 8 last season. Another guy that I think if he puts in another big shift, then more Super Rugby opportunities will come because he's definitely good enough. He can play 6, 7 and 8, and I think in terms of young hookers, there's so many of them about. But Odenrin, he is like watching the Crusaders under 20s. You literally just cannot take your eyes off this guy. He's got massive blonde mullet and just flies into everything. And if there's a try on offer, he seems to be Johnny on the spot. If there's a big tackle to be made or a loose ball, he is just all out energy. And I'm excited to see him go at the sort of next level. That under 20 level, there is a big step up when you're going up against some Super Rugby stalwarts. So I'm excited to see how he goes and how he brings that sort of energy and enthusiasm into the NPC ranks.
Oh, well, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed there were no counties players mentioned.
Oh, you surely have done your prep.
Hoskins and
Tutu, Golden Papali. They might go all right.
I think they'll be fine.
I think they'll do fine at that level.
Yeah,
just fine.
They've got a good. There's not a lot of. They've kept that squad together. There's not a lot of new faces in that squad, and they had their opportunities last season. They'll just need. I think the biggest thing with a lot of the teams like the Harbour, the counties, the Manawatu's is when your depth is tested, and making sure you can keep. Bodies fresh and available is really critical to making a charge against those bigger squads.
Definitely.
Can Northland take the shield?
I just don't think you can ever go against the Northland side. It'll be obviously a big ask, but they'll razzle it. They won't. I don't think they'll leave any stone unturned, and I think they'll go to win it rather than creep their way into the victory like Sam Knock and co. I just think they will play with, I think, a lot of freedom. And I think that's, when you see the shield change over, it normally is I suppose the opponent coming to the defender's area, they have to take it by the scruff of the neck, especially early. And if they can do that, then their big challenge will be. Taranaki just love their set piece. If they infringe, they'll go to the corner, go to the line out more, and then at scrum time they'll milk penalties. So they just need to make sure they hold their own up front, but they've got enough X factor to do it.
And I think also like for Ranfurly Shield footy, you've got to have a good 9 and 10. And I think with Sam Nock and Rivers Reihana with the performances he had with the Crusaders, and I know this is obviously it's a 15-man game, 23 sometimes, most times, but I think having those two guys. First game of the year, big time experience. That's what Ranfurly Shield Rugby is about. Getting those 3 points, earning it the hard way, and being able to, have good game managers. And I think Sam Nock and Rivers Reihana are probably one of the best experienced 1-2 tandem in the NBC competition.
Yeah, that is a strong combination, isn't it? Taranaki, is it?
I do think Taranaki.
I think the hard thing is
they are very strong, and they've been strong for a long time.
Pre-season forms are so hard to read into. Like Auckland absolutely dismantled Northland the other night. So, I mean, it's just hard to know. They've had a lot of obviously Māori ABs away, so they're just sort of coming into the squad. So it's quite hard to get a gauge of where Northland's at. But similar to those players, I think Josh Jacob and co went over to the Barbars, Rata-Maitavugi Neatkins, so they're drip fed back in. So both squads probably, it's sort of hard to pinpoint, but if you were to go on pre-season form, Taranaki have been pretty efficient, so you'd like to think they're going in as favourites.
Yeah, putting the Shield to the side, we've got a new format in the NPC, right? It's going to run a little bit differently. Jipper,
no Storm Week.
No Storm Week.
No Storm Week. I always loved a good Storm Week.
Oh, I love Storm Week.
I loved a good Storm Week.
Loved
but I think both coaching staff and players were very keen to sort of not see the Storm Week. That's probably, it's very similar in terms of the crossover, two different sort of conferences, same final series, but the big winner out of it is that
coaches.
No Storm Week, and you don't have to stress, because I think if you use Tasman as an example at the end of last season, having that Storm Week when they're just hanging on and they're fighting for that quarter-final berth, it just came at the wrong time for a team that probably could have
fell off.
Yeah, and they just had injuries, and so I think that was a big marker that if you can't get them all out early, then it's probably not really doing the job, because everyone probably agreed that Tasman were a side that probably could have gone a lot deeper.
Yeah, looking at that squad, a Storm Week wouldn't really be a problem though, would it?
Well, no.
Even though it depends how many of them in the All Blacks. It's probably
sickening.
more to it.
It's sickening how much depth they have.
I think there was a point a few years ago where they had 4 All Blacks blindside flankers on the books. I think they had Liam Squire, Shannon Frizzell,
Ethan
Blackadder.
Like, it was just all of them there.
Like Talfour was there as well.
Yeah, Talfour. And it was like, you guys, like, really? Come on.
They've obviously got a very good culture down there, so you want even their boys to go play down there. But I
can assure you, every dollar is accounted for, so they're well within the salary cap. It's no Melbourne Storm.
No paper bags and boats?
No.
No? Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good team. I'm not slighting you at all. There's just a lot of good players there. Right, okay, guys. Well, let's go to the picks for the weekend before we head off. Let's start off with the test match. Australia versus the Lions. Can Australia pick up this final game, Brenner?
I definitely think they can, and depending on what the Lions do, if they want to have some changes, which I probably think would happen, you'd have to think would happen. Or if they can have that kind of DNA that they had in that first 30 minutes, the physicality, and hopefully Will Skelton and Rob Valentini can stay on for a longer period of stage in that test match, I think they've definitely got a chance. But I just think the Lions, we just haven't seen the best out of them. I've talked about a lot the spurts, and hearing messages from Andy Farrell, I'm presuming that he'd be wanting to be able to build up something that they want to go. When was the last time they did a 3-0 series 1? So he'll be able to give them a great mindset in terms of what this test match will mean. So I think within saying that, and the depth of guys that probably are going to come through, if they do go through changes, they'll be motivated and hungry to put their own stamp on, I guess, their Lion legacy for this tour. So I'll be going the Lions.
Lions.
Yeah.
3-0.
Yeah, I'm Lions 3-0. I just think there's not enough. Well, I don't have enough facts to change my opinion from the start of the tour, and I almost think this is more dangerous. And I think Pollock will be man of the match.
Yeah. Or Su'ali'i when he plays on the wing.
Well, we know that's not happening.
Okay, well, let's go through the last few quick fire. Okay, Auckland or Waikato?
Man, not quick fire.
That's not a quick fire.
Auckland.
You'd be dead in the Wild West.
It's really hard. Like pre-season, it's hard. Round one's hard. Home advantage, Auckland.
Auckland.
Waikato.
Waikato. Harbour versus Manawatu. Harbour, okay. Even though Manawatu are at home. Wellington v Canterbury.
That's at Punditry Park, is that correct?
Yeah,
It's at Punditry
yeah.
Park, eh?
Yeah.
Good turnout, hopefully a good turnout. I will go Wellington.
Yep, same.
Okay, Southland, Otago.
Southland.
Southland.
Otago.
I've got
Stag
got
Day.
nightmares of that place in Invercargill. Absolute nightmares.
2 flights down.
99 games, finished on 99 games in Invercargill.
Otago, Finn Hurley,
Breaks
player of the day. Just picking player of the day.
Okay, you're both going Naki for the Shield, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Bop v Tasman.
Bob's got a good team, eh?
That is tough.
Bop at home.
It's at home. They have a different team at home. What
Yeah.
time? Do you know what time that's been played?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Tasman.
Right, and Counties beating Hawke's Bay.
No.
No.
Okay,
Hawke's
so
Bay.
Show over. Show over. Hey, thank you very much for joining us on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod once again, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. We appreciate you coming along, sending us emails and getting involved. If you want to send us an email, do so at aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes who helps put the show together. We'll see you next week. Mā te wā.